right, hey, welcome aboard. Mr. Mike here. Let's get going on a Bible study here tonight, or whenever you're doing this. It could be daytime when you're doing this. Anyway, thanks for taking time to watch this here on YouTube. We've got kind of some new things we're doing this year. We're meeting here as a regular group, and then we also have some other different groups. So what I'm going to do is just kind of work my way through it. We'll probably change a little format as we go through over the next week or two, but we're starting out in the book of Nehemiah. So the first thing you need to do, obviously, is go find the book of Nehemiah. So if you got your Bibles, go ahead and do that. It's kind of a little bit before the book of Psalms would be my way of getting you there in the Old Testament. Nehemiah was an interesting guy. He was kind of the same time frame as Ezra, a little bit after Ezra. Ezra is the guy that kind of came and sort of got the spiritual house in order and helped rebuild the temple, and then Nehemiah came and kind of got the physical Jerusalem back in order. So that's what we got here. So we're going to read chapter 1, and you can read the whole book. Go ahead. Read it all, but chapter 1 only has 11 verses, so go ahead and take a moment right now. You should have found Nehemiah, and let me, while you're still looking, okay? I understand some of you might still be looking. He was a Jewish guy, but he was born in Babylon. Probably his grandparents were the ones that were hauled away in exile when Babylon came over and kind of wiped out the Israel area, and Jerusalem took a lot of people in captivity. You probably heard about the 70 years of captivity. There was people kind of hauled off in several different spurts by Babylon and Assyria, and his grandparents were hauled off, and he had kind of risen to a place of honor, or at least he had some leadership skills, and we know that from the book and the fact that he could write and record some of these things. But he worked for the king. He was the king's cupbearer, which means he kind of like the food tester, but it was more than that. It was really a highly trusted position. And the king had respect for him, and we find that he says, "Hey, how are you feeling? You look like you're sad. What's going on?" So they obviously had a good relationship. And the king also respected him enough. And when you get to the next chapter, you'll kind of see some of the things here. The king kind of put a lot of responsibility on him and entrusted him. So he definitely was a man of skill and leadership. He was respected by the king. But there's one other thing he had, which really we all need too, is he had courage. He had courage to step into something kind of unknown and to kind of move forward. And I want to encourage us all to, I think one of the things that's inspiring about Nehemiah is that he had courage. We can have courage. We can see God do great things. That's sort of a summary. So I want to stop here and give you a moment to go ahead and read chapter 1. There's 11 verses. I'm going to pause this right now. Go ahead, take a few moments, and read chapter 1, and we'll be back. When you're done with chapter 1, you can just hit the button, and we'll start again. All right, here we go, chapter 1. All right. Hey, welcome back. Now you have read chapter 1 if you hadn't done it before. And the way we like to do our Bible studies is spend time reading and really kind of digging in. You might have heard the chapter a day keeps the devil away kind of a thing. And a lot of people read a chapter a day, and that's a good thing. But sometimes we need to really take time and really work our way a little slower. And so you're going to find this time here in this Bible study is like that. We're going to kind of dive into some different things and look at them. You're going to have some feedback from the other people in your group, or you're going to have to answer these questions on your own or with your spouse or whoever you're with here. So the first question I have, and I will put these on the screen here as well so you can just listen to the question, but I want you to do a little research on this, and you can do this on your phone right there, or if you have one of the tools that we've talked about, the Bible dictionary, a commentary book or whatever, you can look up some things here. But take a few moments, and here's the question: how far away was Nehemiah from Jerusalem when he got the news about the walls and the gates all being broken down and burned? So how far mile-wise was he away when he got that news? And then here's another question: who was the king that kind of gave him the order. We now know some of these things from history, and we have different names, and some of the Bible names are a little bit different. But who was the king, and approximately what year was it in the kind of the BC thing? So take a moment and look up those questions. All right, hey, welcome back. Let's jump into. I want to read verse 1 and 2 for you. If you don't have it, and I know some of you may not have a Bible with you while you're doing this, and then I have a couple questions about verse 1 and 2. It says, the words of Nehemiah, the son of Hekeliah, and it came to pass in the month of Chislew, in the 20th year, as I was in Shushan, the palace, that Hanani, one of my brethren, came, and he and certain men of Judah, and I asked them concerning the Jews that had escaped, which were left of the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. Now, that's just the first two verses, and I have a question here that I really think, and if you've read a little further, you kind of know he finds that, they're broken, the walls are broken down and some of those things. But here's a question that I have. Nehemiah showed concern for the things back home, all right? So he was concerned for something that wasn't his responsibility. In other words, he was cupbearer. That was his job, okay? But there was something way over there, however many miles away it was, way over there that he was concerned for. And there's an important concept that we find all throughout the Bible and in the New Testament and throughout Christianity, is that people take responsibility for things that are not their responsibility, and that's a good thing. When you do that, that's where missionaries come from and those kind of things. So here are the things that I have. So he asked some questions, and here's the question I have, and I'll put these on the screen. What are some categories of people that we should be asking about and showing concern for? So what are some categories of people, okay, that we should be asking about and showing concern for? And it's kind of a follow-up question to that, and you can answer both of these in your group here now. What are some of the questions that we should be asking about these categories of people? So Nehemiah asked about something way out there, and he asked some good questions. What are some good questions, and who should we be asking them about? So take a few moments and discuss that amongst yourself. All right. Hey, moving right along. I hope that you took a lot of time to go through that. And by the way, these Bible studies, we design ours on Tuesday nights to be about an hour long. We have some prayer time as well. And the prayer time, you don't have to pray for the entire world when you have prayer time, but we really like everybody to pray if possible. And I know it's difficult sometimes with number of people and kids, and some people have never ever prayed out loud before, but it is an important part of your spiritual development to pray and cry aloud to God. This is where you learn this. It's just like, Lord, help me to be more mindful of other people. Boom. That's the prayer. Lord, help me to ask questions of people. Help me be, a blessing to somebody. It can be just that type of prayer that we have. So let me moving along here. Verse 3. And this is we're going to probably only make it to verse 3 here today. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We'll get all that coming up here next week. It says, and they said to me, these are the guys now, he asked them about Jerusalem, and they said unto me, the remnant that are left of the captivity are in the province, are in great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. Okay, so just some really difficult news here. Let me give you the question that I kind of came up with this, and I'll stop it and you guys can discuss it. So verse 3 speaks of people who have suffered of no fault of their own. And that might be one of the categories that you kind of found, is people that are suffering or have been abused at that level. Okay, so they're suffered of no fault of their own. They were overcome by circumstances. One of the primary lessons of the book of Nehemiah is his response to those who were suffering. He offered prayers and he got to work. So he didn't just pray, but he got to work doing something. And you're going to see in verse 4 through 11 that it's basically a giant prayer to the Lord here. So he offered prayer, but then he said, hey, God, what do you want me to do? And he got to work, okay? We're often so focused on our own problems, okay? But, here we go. What can we do? Here's the question now. What can we do to be more aware of other folks who have great needs? So you might have identified their needs, and you might have identified questions to kind of narrow down what their needs are. And questions are a great way to kind of dive into, spend time listening to some, you ask a question and then you listen, okay? But here is what can we do to be more aware? And that's the key word here. What can we do to be more aware of things? What keeps us from being aware would be maybe another way of asking that. So I'll pause it here, and you guys go ahead and work on that question for a few moments, or a few minutes, or half an hour if you want, okay? All right, question number 4, and I'm going to try to do 4 questions every time here. Now, you probably notice some of my questions have 2 questions, all right? So that's how you sneak it in there. But kind of want to sort of dive in, get some good things talking about here. But I'm going to try to do 4 questions every week, and I will have 4 times when you can pause. That's sort of a number that works pretty good here. So question number 4, okay? It says verse 3. It also has an interesting word, and let me read it for you again. It says here, the remnant that are left in captivity, they are in the province, they are in great affliction and reproach. Great affliction and reproach. Now, the word affliction, I think we know what that means, and it's pretty obvious to see if your town the walls are broken down and everything's burned or whatever. But Nehemiah added another word here, and I want us to look this word up, okay? And it is the word reproach. There was not only just a lot of pain going on there, but there was something else happening. And this is what I'd like for you to do, is to look up the word reproach and to find some of the synonyms that have to do with this word. So look for some synonyms, see what some other words are for the word reproach, because it carries with it a lot of weight and a lot of things that really affected Nehemiah at the same time. And then here's kind of the other question, sort of part 2 question. Are there other instances in the Bible where this concept appears? Are there other instances where the idea of reproach is there? This idea of shame, okay, is there. So please take a look at that. Now, I'm going to pause it here, then I'm going to come back, and we're going to wrap things up. So, all right, go for it. All right, hey, welcome back. The next 4, or from verse 4 through 11, is so rich and deep. And I want you to read that in preparation for next week. What we like to do, the way this works, is you read through a chapter, you find your favorite verse, you find your favorite word in there, you find something that really kind of intrigues you, and we like to have discussion about this. These questions, the 4 questions I have, would be in addition to that. And if you're a group leader or if you're in charge there, if there are other areas, feel free to chase that rabbit and take a look at some of these other areas of study that you kind of want to get into. You might want to look into who that king was in more depth, or how big Jerusalem was, and you can actually find a map of Jerusalem and see how big it is. There's all sorts of other things that you can get into here. We like to, in our group, though, try to close it out with some prayer time. And now this is not a lengthy prayer time. And again, I mentioned just a simple sentence. So I'm going to pause it here in a moment. And I want you just to go ahead and somebody pray. And you can just say, pray here, and let's all just say a sentence and go around, or just the guys pray, or just the girls pray, or pick 2 or 3 people to pray. But spend some time and just have a little prayer right now. Okay, so take a moment and ask God that these things we learn, that you would just take a moment. So do that right now, and then we'll wrap it up. All right. Hey, I want to thank you for being involved in this Bible study. This is kind of a new way of doing this. If you have some suggestions, please see me or text me or write it in the comments there. I want to make this as clear and the best possible it can be so people can do this out and about. It is a Bible study, but it is also a small group. And remember, a small group goes really 168 hours out of a week. You really need to care for each other. So look around at the people that are there. Make sure that you're loving on them and being a blessing to them. And you can take time to share specific prayer requests in your group, about things that are needed and some of that. Make sure you do that. And then make sure that you encourage one another and say, hey, I'll see you Sunday at church. So if you're joining us from other places here at other times, and I understand there'll be some people, and we would really love for you, those of you who are here from our church, you can share this link on YouTube. There's a little button on the bottom that says share. You hit that. It says copy link, or you can post it to Facebook. Feel free to send this anywhere and everywhere. We want folks to do that. If you didn't get to watch the first episode, that was just the kind of a little 5-minute like get her started type of a thing, please go back and watch that. This is episode number 2, which is part of chapter 1, then episode 3 beyond, but the next week. So please feel free to share this and make sure that you're loving on one another. And thanks for being with us here, and God bless. I will see you on Sunday if you're here from Sinclair. So God bless. See you later.